Good to see you, everyone. My name is Robbie Howell, and normally there would be a theory crafting build today, but I am in the midst of running a Kickstarter campaign for my own tabletop role-playing game, Enclave, link in the description. Please go check it out if you haven't seen it already. So instead, since one of you guys posted in a comment like a billion years ago that you wanted to see me do some tier list stuff, I'm here to oblige that comment with the definitive, completely objective list of the best existing civilization ensigns in Age of Empires 2. Obviously, this is 100% accurate, and I will not tolerate a single disagreement. You understand that? Good. Okay. Let's jump into it. And since normally everyone starts with the Aztecs, we're going to be doing the exact opposite and starting with the Vikings. Let's take a look at this beaut. Honestly, I don't like it. Obviously, the iconography is great and it's very historically appropriate, but for once, I'm not going to be focusing as much on history for this list and more focusing on pure, completely objective aesthetics. And for me, this one really doesn't do it. Again, I love the raven motif, but red and gold, that's like such boring colors. They're Vikings, for Christ's sake. I think we could have done better than red and gold, as I'll be getting into. Red and gold is a brutally overused color scheme in Age of Empires 2, and I would really like to see it branched out a little bit more. If this were literally just recolored, I would actually quite like it, but as is, I am going to have to put it in the not a fan. No, it's almost in the actively dislike it category just because of the missed opportunity, but we'll put it here to be generous. Vietnamese. The Vietnamese are honestly quite striking. I love the texture on their ensign, and I think the colors are pretty appealing. Again, it's mostly red and gold, but there is that lovely little turquoise blue in there, and so that definitely bumps it ahead above the Vikings. So two things I like about it. I think the pattern is fairly appealing. The red and gold, even though it is boring, at least is kind of striking. Overall, I will say I like it. I'm kind of between these two, plenty to like and it's okay. I'm gonna put it in plenty to like for now, and we might bump it down later. On to the Turks. Yeah, the Turks are in an interesting boat for me. On one hand, green is a nice color. I like green. But on the other hand, it's just boring. I'm putting in the okay category. I may have overrated the Vikings. They might get bumped down later on, but we're going to stick with this for now. Teutons. All right, so for like a classic European style shield and for something that is red and gold, this one is at least a little more interesting. I love seeing black on civilization ensigns. I think it's very striking and engaging. The eagle motif is awesome. And I also love how recognizable this one is at a distance. Because of that, I think I'm going to put it in the plenty to like tier. It is overall quite good. Possibly my favorite classic European ensign. Tatars. Now we're getting to the good stuff. Okay, I really like the Tatars ensign. I think the symbol is beautiful. The bright red with the white and the gold is so pretty, though as I will get to later, this combination by itself doesn't mean I like the ensign. I just think it's done best here. Tatar ensign overall goes in the plenty to like tier 100%. I also love how recognizable it is at a distance. Spanish. Oh, Spanish, you're in a very interesting place. On the one hand, I think the colors are kind of cool. It almost looks a little purpley from a distance, and as you will soon see, purple is my favorite color for Age of Empires ensigns. The shape is kind of appealing. It's a little busy, but I don't hate busy. It doesn't really inspire me. I do like how visible it is at a distance, though. I'm gonna put it in the okay tier. Slavs. Oh dear. Now this one I'm not going to have much nice to say about. I know that this trident thing is an iconic Kievan Rus sign, I believe, but I don't think it is properly used, and I think that the image overall is very bland. It doesn't really pop out to me because it's literally just a freaking outline. I could make this in Figma in roughly half an hour. Just overall, very underwhelming. I'm going to put it in the actively dislike it tier. I would love to see this one change. Sicilians! Now, we're going to ignore the fact that this civilization should not be called the frickin' Sicilians. It should be called the Normans. Again, we're going purely on 100% objective aesthetics for this list. Okay, good. Now, aesthetically, it's cool. It's got this kind of like barbershop pattern going. I love the shape. Unique shield shapes are a big thing for me. And overall, I think it's very iconic and recognizable. I also love how the sergeant actually carries it. I'm going to put in the plenty to like tier. Saracens. Great symbol. This is an iconic early Islamic symbol. The black is really cool as well. I believe that is the color of the Abbasid Caliphate. Like the Slavs, it's a little boring. And that's the worst thing I have to say about it. I love the black and gold combo. Black, again, is a color I really like to see on Ensigns, and this one does it pretty well. And it is boring. I'm going to put it in the okay tier. And you know, now that I have had some time to think about it, I'm going to bump the Turks down to not a fan. I think that there's a lot more that you could have done with that particular motif. Romans. New Romans. I'm just going to say it. Mine was way better. Just putting it out there. Okay, guys? If you haven't seen it, go check out my Romans video up in the card up there. It's red and gold. Woo, how surprising. And the eagle looks like it has a big penis falling out of it. Don't like it. I will say, I like the art style in this one. I like how it's kind of like almost blocky. It almost has like an Art Deco look. But that is about the extent of what I like about this one. Overall, I think it is rather dull. I am going to put it in the actively dislike it tier. It's not my least favorite ensign, as we will get to soon. But speaking of things I created, what's this ensign? Wouldn't you know it, this is the ensign for my game, Enclave. Once again, if you haven't seen the campaign yet, I would hugely appreciate if you could go take a look down in the description below. It is a tabletop role-playing game that I have spent a lot of my life developing, and I am finally putting out into the world. Obviously, the Enclave ensign goes into the topmost tier. Duh. Now, let's move on to the Portuguese. I think it's boring. It has like some dominoes, and it has some castles. Like, I'm sure this is quite historically accurate. I just don't know the background behind it. As is, it just kind of looks a little over busy to me. I don't love it. In fact, I'm not sure I actively dislike it. You might convince me though. Poles. Yes, Poles. This is the only signet in the game that does red right. I love the red on this. I think it contrasts beautifully to the nice little bird decal. It's probably an eagle. When I said the Teutons might be my favorite classic European ensign, I was lying. It's actually the Poles, for sure. Teutons is going down here because they are just strictly worse in terms of how they use the color red and how they do their bird. Good job, Poles. My favorite ensign in the game, though, is without a doubt the Persians. I recently did a video on my own take on the Persians. Go check it out up here if you haven't seen it. And for that video, for the first time in my entire theory crafting history, I did not change the ensign. I love it. It's wonderful. It has beautiful colors. The Simur, that dragon thing, is a great motif. It's simple while still being very representative and eye-catching. It's recognizable at a distance, and I love it. Good job, Persians. You're my favorite in the game. Mongols. Is this like a hat? Maybe I'm dumb. I don't know what this is supposed to be. And honestly, it has some problems that I've mentioned before. It's a little boring. It's a very basic symbol that doesn't really deliver or like entice curiosity of any kind. I'm putting it in the not a fan category. I don't love it. Could be worse. Mayans. Now we're talking. This thing is sick. Look at this awesome shape and the cool like inlay pattern they have going on. There's such a great art style here, and it feels so Mayan. Like, perfect. I'm actually gonna put this one. I was thinking about putting it in this tier. It's going into the love tier. I love the Mayans ensign. Probably my second favorite in the game. Maybe. We'll get to that. Malians. Great texturing. I love the texturing. I love the colors. So striking, so recognizable at a distance. It's a great ensign. It is 100% going into the like tier. Okay. Now, before I do this one, what civilization is this for? It's the Malay. Like, I'm sure many of you knew that, but every time I see this in game, I have to like think to myself, what civilization is this again? And that's because it's so boring. Like brown and gold with some stars. Like the only thing I like about this one is the texturing. That's pretty cool. It's not good. It's actually quite ass. I think it is a contender for one of the worst ensigns in the game. I really wish they would remake it. Come on, guys. Don't do the Malay dirty. They have so much beautiful iconography to offer, and you go with some stars on wicker. No. Unacceptable. Magyars. It's a cool shape. We love the shape of this ensign. This is called an Ungarischer style shield. It's traditional Hungarian shape. The Magyar Huszár actually holds this shield in game, and I love when the ensign is integrated into a unique unit. I think that's really cool. But it's just this fucking barbershop thing going on. It's just kind of uninspired and boring. So even though I like the shape, I cannot put it higher than this. It's okay. I don't hate it. If it was a cooler pattern, I would love it. Speaking of a cooler pattern, Lithuanians. Also a very cool shield shape. I love the texturing on the shield face. This symbol is kind of boring, and it is, once again, red and gold. My favorite! But it at the very least does a lot more with it than the Magyars. Kind of confusing that these two civilizations are alphabetically next to each other, and their ensigns are both like kind of similar looking. I get these two tripped up a lot, which maybe means that this doesn't belong higher than the other, but it is certainly cooler. I'm going to put it here in the plenty to like tier. Just know that this is like the bottom of the plenty to like tier. Koreans. Now, this might be controversial. I love this ensign. I have no idea how historically appropriate it is. I don't know whether the Taijitu symbol was ever actually carried into battle. I don't know if red and blue were colors of Korea at the time. I don't know if the shield is accurate, but it is so beautiful. It's so aesthetically appealing. It's like I'm taking a bird's eye view into like an ice cream or something and I'm about to eat it. But of course, since this is a 100% accurate and incontrovertible subjective list, I'm putting it into I love it tier. It's one of my favorites in the game. And it should be one of yours too. All right, on to the Khmer. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly now. It's a face. Kind of a doofy face. He's a little guy. Honestly, beautiful. I think that this one is one of the nicest designs or renderings of any of them. The texturing is great. Did you notice that he has like, his face is made out of individual blocks, just like the statues? Obviously it's not a shield, but in my own builds, I use like masks and faces and stuff semi-frequently, and it's because this ensign lets me do it. My only problem is the colors. I think it's quite boring, a little plain, and even though obviously it's the only civilization that has an ensign like this, I still kind of do a double take like, who's that again? Oh yeah, it's the Khmer. I just don't know if it's iconic, or maybe that's not the right word, because it definitely is iconic. I don't know, I don't love it. I'm going to put it in the okay category, though I really appreciate its existence. Japanese. Yes, chrysanthemums are iconic, but man, is this boring. Like, the coloration on it is so plain. I wish it were more interesting. I think it criminally undersells Japanese iconography of the era. It's going into the active dislike tier. All right, welcome to possibly my least favorite ensign in the game. A red cross on a white background on a heater shield with gold trim. Must have kept you up all night to think of that one, guys. And this is what represents all of Italy? Stupid! No, it's trash. Despised tier. I hate this thing. It's awful. You should too. It's an objective list. Inca. Very cool shape. It's a fabric shield, of course, which it represents nicely. It has really appealing colors. I think this is a very solid offering, and I would be remiss not to put it into the like tier. Hunley Huns. Yeah, it's a red horse. Like, don't get me wrong. I get they didn't have much to work with. What even would Hun iconography look like? And because of that, I actually don't hate this one. My favorite part about it is definitely the black background, but I also like the texturing, and I like the horse's kind of stylized design. It's like shockingly good for being so plain. I'm bordering on putting it into plenty to like tier, but I'm gonna put it on like high end of okay tier. Okie dokie. Hindustani Za. Beautiful. It's so eye-catching, it has so much going on without being too over-designed. I love the green and red, kind of watermelon looking. It has that cool like studs going on around the edge. I think this is beautiful. It was one of the things that made me most take notice when the Hindustanis were dropped. Speaking of which, Gurjaras. They are also awesome. I love this like lotus thing going on around the edge. Got the iconic forest-studded thing in the center. Has green. I love green, and I think the green pairs really nicely with this like coconut brown. I think it's an awesome ensign. I'm even debating putting it into the love tier. I'm gonna put it here though. These two are about equally good for me, even though I slightly prefer this one. I think this one is more recognizable. Okay, Goths. Also, while it's on my mind, apologies if you hear lisping. I have some TMJ right now, and it's making it kind of hard to talk. So, apologies for that. Goths are meh. I think the blue is kind of pretty. The bird looks like it's like peeing into a urinal or something, kind of awkward. But it is cool. It's very representative of the era. I think it is respectable, but I don't love it. So I'll put it in okay. All right, Franks. I feel like the Franks are not my cup of tea. Like it's just blue and gold, blue and yellow with fleur-de-lis. Ooh, you must have thought all night to figure out that one, but it does the job, and I will say it is very recognizable, and I think they did a great job of that. Because of that, I put in the okay tier. My own personal taste. Hold it back from being higher. And of course, you should share these personal tastes because they are entirely objective. All right, Ethiopian time. It's a weird one for me. On one hand, when you blow it up big, it has some really beautiful detail. On the other hand, it's boring as shit, especially from afar. And as another example of one where when I see it in game, I'm like, who is this again? Because it's so uninspired to me. Another thing I like about it is that the Shotel Warrior actually wears it on his back. I think that's pretty cool. But another thing I dislike about it is I think that brown and gold is one of the weakest color combinations. You have to like really work to make it stand out. And so even though I'm kind of tempted to put it in the despised tier, I can't put it there. And I don't think I can put it here either because at least it has a lot more effort put into its pattern. I'm gonna put it here. A lot of promise, the colors let it down. Dravidians. I love turquoise. Turquoise is a beautiful color, and the kind of gray-black background is so cool, and the shape is cool. It's very iconic. Gorgeous ensign on a terribly designed civilization. It goes in love tier. All right, Mr. Mustache. Look at him. Look at that sculpted dude. He's literally wearing a banana on his face that my son drew on in Sharpie. I love it. Really cool, very iconic. Again, gives me justification to use masks and stuff for my own civilizations. And I think that it's way more recognizable than the one for the Khmer. So oopsies, that's too small. I am gonna put it in plenty to like tier. Yeah. There's a lot more good ensigns in this game than bad. And so because of that, we need more space up in the plenty to like tier. Not speaking of which, stock Chinese. Yay, it's red and gold, my favorite. The pattern's cool, but I think there are better patterns you could have used for China. I think the texturing is pretty cool. And I know both red and gold are very significant, so if any civilization is going to use a red and gold motif, it's probably this one. I can't really bring myself to hate it as much as some of the other red and gold boring snooze fests, so I'm going to put it here. You know, I'm gonna put the Viking down here now that I think more about it. Because at least the Chinese one stands out. The Viking one from afar is kind of washed out and weak, and you could have done so much more interesting things than just a freaking gold raven on a red background. Want to make the raven black. Ravens are black, goddammit. Moving swiftly onto the Celts. Besides them being a silly civilization that should not exist, I don't love this. Which is weird, because I love green, I love Celtic symbology. If the Celts were in Age of Empires 1, I think this would be a perfect ensign for them. But it's not. It's in Age of Empires 2. Again, bringing us into the whole problem of the Celts being in this game as is. It's dumb. And this ensign reminds me of how annoyed that makes me, so I'm going to put it in the not a fan tier. I would put it lower, but I do love the green, and I do love the symbology. Byzantines. Hello, red and gold. This one's at least a little more interesting because it's on, like, you know, a cool shaped background. It's all right. But to be honest, I feel like they should have used purple. What's wrong with purple? I would love to see more purple in the game. Color of Emperors and all that, I'm not a fan. I think they could have done better, but I like the shape. The Burmese. It's so beautiful. Like, especially when you blow it up and you can see the whole peacock and you got those speckles of green. It's so pretty. But when you look at it from afar, it's really washed out. I will say it's recognizable and it's one of the better uses of gold, but it's just not well detailed. And I think that there could have been better ways of implementing this particular design. Not a fan. Burgundians, no. It's a boring frickin' Exxon white. It's just a plain old heater. No! Dislike. Bulgarians. The three cat fetuses, or whatever these things are supposed to be, is like obviously historically appropriate, but I find it kind of dull. The yellow on black, I don't think looks great. I wish they'd made it like a little more gold, like a little more orangey gold, because as is, it just kind of gives me like urinal cake vibes. Not brilliant in my eyes. Pretty recognizable at a distance, but I don't know. Not a fan. Seems like a missed opportunity. Hello! We have 3 more cat fetuses to discuss. I know this one is iconic. I know the exact shield this is based on. It is still boring, and I do not like it. The only thing I like about this ensign is that it is red to contrast the Franks being blue, which is like a cool, like red versus blue Joan of Arc. Woo, very exciting. No, I do not like this ensign. I think it could have been much cooler. I'm putting it here. I would like to see something else. Thank you very much. All right. Bohemians, everyone's favorite Bohemian stan, Tomasz, has expounded at length why this is not a brilliant ensign. But excluding the history, I think the red and black split down the middle is actually really cool. If it was just red or just black, actually just black would actually look pretty sick. But if it were just red, I would despise this one. As is, I think it's decent. To me, it's very recognizable at a distance, and because of that, I'm going to put it in the okay tier. This is on the high end of the okay tier, though. Bye-byes. The bye-byes. I love the shape. This is, of course, a classic, I think, an Adarga shield. Might be wrong about that. The color is a little lame. It looks kind of like a hoof without really giving me much more. I guess they're a cavalry civilization. Ooh, it's a hoof. The one thing I like is this symbol right here. That's actually a classic Northwest African symbol, which is cool. And the little tassels give a little splash of color. It's all right. It's in the okay tier. And we are getting towards the end of the list. 2 left, my friends, beginning with the Bengali. I like this one a lot, which might be weird because it's very, very simple. It's just so smooth. I don't know, like it looks like a custard. And I think that the yellow, even though it has like a slight hint of like urinal cake piss color, is still very striking. The orange is great. I love orange in ensigns, and I think that the orange and yellow are super striking. In fact, I would say this is up there as one of the most recognizable ensigns in the game. I see it and I know exactly what I'm up against, namely a very easy game because the Bengalis suck. Plenty to like. Lastly, Aztecs. It's cool. I like the pattern. I like the symbology. I really like the texturing. Green is a great color. The one thing I wish they had done is I wish they had put feathers on the bottom, because that would have made it look like a real proper Aztec shield, and it would not have made the image too cluttered or big. Like, listen guys, if you're going to do this with the Ethiopian one, and you're going to do this with the Gurjara one, I think you can give the Aztecs a few feathers. Give them a proper, what's it called, Teocatli or something? That's the name of the Aztec shield. Give them a proper one of those, and then this goes into the love tier, as is. Kind of borderline between like and okay. I'm going to put it in the like tier. I think it's good. And there you go. The definitive, incontrovertibly correct list of civilization ensigns currently in Age of Empires 2. I hope you've enjoyed. I hope that this tier list content is enough to tide you over while we wait for another theory crafting video. Again, I am very grateful for your patience. I apologize for my frickin' lisping. This TMJ can eat my ass. But now that we have gone through my correct opinions, I would love to hear your incorrect opinions. Please do share your thoughts on this list down in the comments below. Which ensigns have I dramatically overrated? Which ones have I overhated? Do you have any thoughts or opinions on Civilization ensign design that you would like to share? If so, I would love to hear it. But until then, my name is Robbie Howell, and ciao for now.